Good evening, everybody. I hope that you are logging in and you can hear me. Looks like we had about 263 a minute ago, and now people are logging off already, so I think that might be a bad sign. Just want to check into kind of a sound check, maybe. Rob Perry, can everybody hear me at this point? All right, I got some crew saying yes. So the first thing I'd like to do is say thank you to the folks that are putting this together behind the scenes: Rob Perry, Paul Bean, our superintendent, Trisha Dellis, and then all the folks that are working behind the scenes tonight to help pull this off: Trisha Zarevich, Michelle Mahaney, and two of my secretaries, Robin Montana and Elaine Eldridge. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dan Morgan. I'm the principal of Carmel Middle School. And again, thank you for joining us tonight. Also tonight we have with us Jen Casper. She's our outstanding co-administrator here at the middle school. And she'll be talking a little bit tonight as we go through this presentation and helping answer any questions that you have at the end. So to kind of give you an overview of what we're doing tonight, tonight's presentation is really about giving you a look at the distance education program we're designing here at Carmel Middle School. We want to help you better understand what your child's school day will look like and what their experience overall will look like. So the presentation is really focused on those elements of distance ed. A few things that I'm kind of not going to be doing. I'm not going to be spending time explaining plans for the hybrid program that we've talked about and that we're seeing some other districts across the country open in, mostly because that is now off in the distance. And if we get to that point, then we'll do another one of these presentations to let you know exactly what is going to happen, because I think things can change dramatically between what we learned at the beginning of summer, where we're at now, and what might happen when we reopen. So I'm going to leave hybrid alone tonight. I'm also not going to spend a lot of time speculating on COVID or reopening dates or anything like that, because quite frankly, I don't know what's going on out there, and I don't want to provide any misinformation. So the focus really is going to be this distance ed program. We're going to try to keep this very concise so that we can field as many questions as we can. So I want to go over some ground rules for tonight's presentation to help people. I know that people are already, I think, in chat and typing away. So we will have an opportunity for questions, but please hold on to those until the very end. We hope that the presentation answers most of those questions. So kind of go over these ground rules, and if we can all follow those, then we'll be in good shape. So first of all, I'm going to go through the entire presentation that we have for you. It is only 17 slides, so it should be fairly quick overall. And we're going to go through the entire presentation before we open up for questions. So I'm going to encourage you to write down any questions that you have, and then as we go through the presentation, if those questions are answered, please cross them off your list and keep your hand down. And if they're not answered, then when we're done, that's a great time to answer those questions. We have done this presentation to a small group already, and at the end they told us that most of the questions that they had were answered during the course of the presentation. So we hope that that's true tonight for everybody else. So please bear with us as we go through the presentation, and then hang on to your questions. At the very end, when you have questions, please use your raise the hand feature on Zoom, and that will alert our staff to put you into the queue, and then they'll call on you when it's your turn. If you just post a question in chat, I think you're going to get sort of an automated response from one of the people that's monitoring it, and it's basically going to say raise your hand and ask your question in person using the raise your hand feature. So again, once the presentation is done, use that raise your hand feature to get in line to ask questions. We'd ask that you keep your comments or questions to 1 minute each so that we can get through as many as possible in the time allotted. We do have a time limit of 2 hours tonight, and they will cut us off. It will actually just go blank, and we'll be done at that 2-hour mark. So hopefully we can get through everyone's questions. We'd also ask only 1 question per person so that we can give everybody an opportunity to participate. And then finally, please don't raise your hand and then put your hand down and then re-raise your hand. That just confuses things, and it will make it really hard to manage, and you might lose your place in the queue. So once your hand is up, and if your question's been answered, then you can put it down, but don't do the hand up, hand down thing. It's just too difficult for us to follow, and it'll kind of mess things up. So that's kind of it for ground rules. And so without further ado, we will jump into the presentation, and I will share my screen with you. Again, it's a 17-slide PowerPoint presentation, and I'll be talking quite a bit. So please sit back, relax, enjoy, listen, and if you have questions, write them down. And hopefully this works someday. All right, there it is. I was going to make a joke about how can we do school and we can't even present to you. So this is our Carmel Middle School Master Schedule and Program Orientation presentation. And so the first thing that I wanted to go over with you is basically how we landed on this program and what the program goals were in terms of our students. And this was really our focus when trying to design a distance learning program that was challenging and robust, so would keep your students engaged and involved throughout the school day and hopefully give them all the things that they would get during a normal day. Obviously, there are some drawbacks to distance learning, but we want to try to mimic our regular program as much as possible. So we really looked at when we designed this program, the first thing we wanted to work on was identification of student goals, things that we wanted students to get out of this. So the first thing was increased academic engagement. And so because of that goal, we decided that all 4 academic periods each day for middle schoolers would be appropriate. We are going to require daily attendance, and attendance will be taken each period. Typically, that will be taken during the live portion of each class, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But this program, focusing on 4 academic periods a day, helps maintain the curricular continuity of our hybrid schedule and our regular schedule should we have the opportunity to move into either one of those programs. So rather than do a block schedule like we did at the end of last year, we felt like we wanted to basically have the continuity of a regular schedule and have students attend all 4 academic periods per day. In addition to that, we have PE and electives on the board. And again, I'll be talking about that a little bit later on. We also had a goal of increased student support. This is also a state mandate. So we wanted to make sure that we designed something to help struggling learners while not necessarily interrupting the academic portion of the day or taking elongated breaks in the middle of the day, like a Wednesday off for office hours. So what we've done is built in a daily office hours for small group and personal instructional support. And again, as I get into this a little deeper, you'll see what that looks like. But we have scheduled basically a 1-hour period per day for people to get student support in a variety of capacities. We wanted to make sure that we improve our progress monitoring. And so in doing this, we wanted to take a team approach to create a stronger holistic approach to student intervention. So this year, what's different about this program, and actually we saw as a huge advantage, is that students are going to be divided up into small groups and have teacher teams. So all students that are in a certain class will have the same core group of teachers as they travel through their day. Now, what this does is it allows us to focus on those groups of kids without kind of wondering, who they're going to next. So in our regular 7-period day here on campus, kids are all over the place, and there's not a lot of continuity per schedule. In this particular model, the kids will all have the same teacher or all have the same core academic teachers. That allows them to get together, talk about student progress and student achievement, and really focus and hone in on student learning and anybody that's struggling. So we see this as a real benefit to this particular program. Providing student options was another goal. We wanted to include, obviously, all academic courses that are required, but then we also wanted to continue our elective program as much as possible and have different options for PE, which allows the student and the family control over the length of the school day. So many of you filled out a form that we recently sent out. Basically, it was a program request and elective selection form. You can choose just to participate in a 4-period academic day, in which case your day would end around noon and your student then would just complete their homework and you'd have the rest of the afternoon off. You could select 1 additional elective or 2 additional electives if you're in 7th or 8th grade and continue your day, extend it through those activities and learning. And also with that comes, additional study time and homework. And so your day could really last quite a while after that. We'll go over some of that today. But again, this program, we thought it was important to offer students and families options to kind of control their own length of day and some of the activities that they're engaging in. Maintaining best practice recommendations for online school while meeting state requirements. So the state mandates 4 hours of instruction for middle school. It's a pretty unique formula that we're being tasked with tracking and monitoring. And basically it works like this. All of the live instruction that we provide counts for live instructional minutes, and then everything that is assigned is given a minutes value based on how long it would take an average student to complete. And so our teachers will be tasked with kind of figuring out what those numbers are, putting the two together, and we are required to provide your students a minimum of 4 hours of instruction. So you'll see in our day, we have 45-minute periods with 15-minute passing periods. That means that most teachers will be assigning a minimum of 15 minutes of homework a night. Again, some teachers would assign 0, but other teachers might go beyond that and do something like 30 minutes. Best practice recommendations, and again, these vary depending on what organization you're looking at, but for 6th grade, looking around 4 hours of online school, 7th grade, somewhere between 4 and 5, and 8th grade, 4 and up to 6 hours. Again, that's a pretty lengthy day to be sitting on the computer and taking classes, but that is what we're looking at this year. And then finally, one of our goals was to provide a social experience and social emotional support for our students. So we wanted to keep our leadership program alive. We've talked with our counselors about providing new group counseling support and doing some different activities. We wanted to continue the success of competitions and school-wide events from spring that were pushed out by our librarians. And we'll talk about those later on. But we're looking at a variety of ways to continue to engage students in life here at the middle school and keep them involved with peers and in competitions and things like that. So that's kind of an overview of the goals that drove the decision-making process in our particular schedule model. The academic and elective program at the middle school is basically as follows. You have required academics. Those include English language arts, math, science, and social studies. So everybody will be taking some version of those classes. Academic classes have been scheduled from 8:15 a.m. to noon at 45-minute increments. So your first period go from 8:15 to 9, second 9:15 to 10, so on. PE is required. We are asking for 40 minutes of daily exercise with 3 options for completing your physical education. First would be to participate and complete PE classes with live instructors. We are going to be offering a kind of early bird live workout, a 0 period, if you will, from 7:30 to 8 o'clock. Mr. Glazier had great success with this workout last year, although it was later on in the day. And he's really hoping that lots of people will join him for the workout again this year. We think it's a great way to start your day. And Mr. Glazier had a lot of fun bonding with the kids who were doing his workouts. He's very creative with the things that he was doing. And your children, your students will have a lot of fun if they choose to get up early and work out with Mr. Glazier. Second component of PE would be to participate and complete in classes with content posted by instructors. That can be everything from live workouts to recorded workouts by experts in the field or workouts and activities that our instructors post for you. And then the final option for PE completion would be to complete and submit an independent study exercise log signed by a parent verifying at least 40 minutes of daily exercise. So we realize that lots of people are still involved in outside activities, surfing, dancing, running on their own, hiking. All of those activities can count. You just have to fill out the log and submit it to your assigned teacher. Optional electives. Students can choose to extend their school day by enrolling in 1 or 2 interest-based electives. Right now, we're really focused on 7th and 8th grade. We are hoping to run a 6th grade elective program. And again, it depends on total signups from 7th and 8th graders. But electives for 7th and 8th grade include full year of world language. The music and choral programs are all running. We have art. We have a period of computer programming. And we're looking at a couple others that we may be able to add, nature studies, for example. Elective classes have also been scheduled into 45-minute increments starting at 12:15, and they'll run until 4. So 12:15, 1:15, 2:15, and 3:15. So that's kind of an overview look of the academic and elective program. And we're going to take a quick look now at our master schedule and what that looks like. This is really from a teacher and team perspective. So as I go through this, I'll highlight what we're looking at exactly, and hopefully it'll give you an idea of what our schedule and our day might look like. So the first section here, lines 1 through 9. Sorry, I didn't highlight them all. Try it again. Oh, now it's moving things on me. That's really fun. Okay, so maybe I won't try that. But anyway, oh, here we go. Great. Okay, so this is a look at what a 6th grade class schedule might look like, but these are not students, these are our instructors and the periods that they'll be teaching. So just to kind of walk you through, line 1 is our distance ed schedule. You can see 7:30 to 8:10. We have that open period so people can participate in PE if they would like. At 8:15, period 1 starts. If your student was assigned to Miss Little in first period, they would have core with her for 2 periods. In 6th grade, we have a core class, which is a combination of English language arts and social studies. It's a 2-period block. So they would start there at 10:15. They could log into what would be their 3rd period class, and they would have Miss Bradley for science. And then in 4th period, 11:15, they log in and see Miss Mayer for math. So this is an example of a teacher team. Everybody that has Miss Little or Miss Silva for core would also have Miss Bradley and Miss Mayer for math. They stay together in those groups. And even though I said I wouldn't talk too much about it, if we move into the hybrid schedule, they would maintain those teachers. We're trying to set up a schedule that sort of maintains that fidelity so that people's lives aren't turned upside down if we have to switch to a different program. So that's kind of a basic look at the first 4 periods of the day. We have scheduled in a 1-hour lunch. And again, this is, brought about by looking at trying to be flexible for, for students. So we figured after 4 hours, people might be getting hungry. They might have been online the entire day. Time to get some lunch. However, at the same time, if you look down here at the bottom to lines 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, you can see the our elective program. So our elective classes actually start at 12:15. Now we're taking a look at how these will be scheduled, and right now these classes are all just placeholders. So if you are a student or a parent and you're thinking, oh my gosh, my kid has Spanish 2, it starts at 12:15, but they're also in strings, how's that going to work? We have not sorted this out yet, and we're doing so based on the course request. We'll be rearranging these classes. At any rate, as examples, at 12:15, these classes might be offered. At 1:15, these classes in this column here might be offered, Spanish 1, French 2, Chinese 1, and band. So we're spreading those out across the afternoon sections to allow students the opportunity to finish their academic day, take a break and have lunch, and then jump into some electives. Also, because there's a 15-minute break in between each period, we're hoping that some kids will just kind of decide to eat at home, throughout the day. The reason that 15-minute break exists is because if we move to hybrid, there will be a 15-minute cleaning period between each class as students transition. So rather than change the bell schedule, we thought we would just stick to it. And we anticipate that your students' teachers might move beyond the 9 o'clock end time or the 10 o'clock end time and take up some extra time during the, what would be the passing period, if they have to extend that class at all. So it's not a hard end to each period, but they will release kids to go to their next class in plenty of time to log in. So those 15-minute breaks during the day, hopefully will give your student a chance to kind of regroup, grab snacks if they need to, take care of any bathroom needs, and have plenty of time to log in for their next class. Also, if they're, say in a math class and they have 1 or 2 problems left to finish, great time to get those done before you move on to your next class. So this takes me to column H. Column H is our universal support period. So we have, you can see it says 6th grade support all the way down the row, 7th grade support, 8th grade support will be there as well. This is a 1-hour block of time, and actually it's about 1 hour and 15 minutes. Again, we've created that 15-minute passing period between 1 and 1:15. Anyway, this is an opportunity for students especially to reach out to teachers and get help that they need. Again, we schedule it on a daily basis because daily help is critical. If you're going through 2 or 3 lessons and then saying, hey, contact me on Wednesday or Thursday about any concepts that you missed in that 2-day period that you're waiting or hoping for help, you can fall further behind. So we wanted to try to find some way to reach kids every single day. This is also an opportunity for our teachers to identify either individual students or groups of students who need additional support or work and bring them into a Zoom session in small groups and continue working on concepts or curriculum with them during that time. We have some other ideas for this period we're going to use for social emotional support, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later on. But we're basically opening up this period for an overall support period for every student. There are obviously some students who will be taking classes during this time if they've enrolled in electives. Our hope is that if you're enrolling in one of these advanced electives like a language, that you don't need as much academic support during the day. But if you do, there's going to be opportunities also to reach out to your teachers. And then at the end of the day, again, per contract, we are required to provide our teachers with a prep period. So everybody has a common prep. This is a huge benefit to us because as we build this new distance learning model and program, it's a big lift. Obviously, moving from traditional schooling, they're changing now everything, right? The curriculum stays essentially the same, but we're having to work in ways that we've never worked before and work at speeds that we've never worked before. So providing our teachers with opportunities to collaborate with each other and spend some time, adjusting as we go and learning. Growing as teachers is critical. So that is scheduled for 2:15 to 3 o'clock for all of our academic teachers. In the meantime, as you can see, electives are still going on, and those electives can go on until 4 o'clock. So that's kind of a look at how we're arranging the day for people. And again, a lot of this was brought on by trying to figure out the best way to provide flexibility to students and families so that they can really kind of select their own school day and school hours, hopefully, and hopefully that will be seen as a benefit. So I will move away from this sample schedule now and continue with the rest of this presentation. The support period that we just talked about, people might have questions about that. So again, wanted to just reiterate what that is for. So grade level support will primarily be used for the following things: student check-ins for question and reteaching concept, small group work with students who need extra support, and then also social emotional check-ins with students. And this could be teachers or also could be counselors. Grade level support can also be used for advisory lessons. We were in the middle of piloting an advisory program last year, and we're interrupted with that. So we've got some content that we are really interested in rolling out. So we're talking about moving or using the advisory lessons in the student support period as a school-wide emotional support opportunity. We might have our counselors push in and give lessons during this time, Ms. Magretta and Ms. Greco. Open school activities and competitions like Battle of the Books, Harry Potter trivia, those types of things. We might, for instance, just announce that there's an activity going on, and then students who would like to use the period can come join us during that time. And then also one of the great things and things that we miss is our weekly gatherings in person. So we're considering doing like a 15 or 20-minute gathering or a grade level gathering, something just to keep us connected to the kids and kind of have some fun during that period as well. So those are just some of the ideas that we're kicking around. There could be more things coming, but that's what we're looking at this point. So I wanted to share with you potential schedules. What does it look like for a kid working through this day, and how long, and all those kind of things. So I used my son's name. He's going to be incoming 6th grader, but I plugged him into all 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But anyway, his name's Liam. And so if Liam is in core for 1st and 2nd period, then you have 3rd period headed to math from 10:15 to 11, and science from 11:15 to 12. So he could then have lunch, or hopefully an elective. Again, we're still working that out with 6th grade, or he could do live PE during this time if he's eating some snacks at home. And then once that period is over, if he needs additional support, he can get additional support from his teachers in their office hours, the support period, or he could be involved in another elective, 6th grade elective if it's scheduled during that time, or continue PE. So PE will be open throughout, and we're hoping that kids can sign up and kind of jump into whatever classes they want. Again, that's something to be worked out with our PE teachers. He could also get up early in the morning and jump into the early bird PE class or the early morning workout, and then take his normal academic load and kind of be done at lunch. So if you take a look down below for PE options, you have early morning option, and then classes from 12:15 up to 4 o'clock or independent study PE. Electives, the year-long electives that we know that we can offer our 6th grade students are band, strings, and chorus. And exploratory electives, quarter-long, those are various. We sent out some signups for that. And again, we're taking a long look at hopefully being able to offer those to people. Anticipated homework load for 6th grade students really is going to be a minimum of 15 minutes per academic period to up to 30 minutes per academic period. So you're looking at 1 to 2 hours each night. So if your school day were to end at noon and you were to eat lunch for, say, half an hour, with the homework, you should anticipate being done with schoolwork at around 1:30. If you're taking a band, strings, or chorus class, then that would be held somewhere during the lunch period, 6th period, 7th period, or 8th period slot. And practice times would obviously stretch that time out a little bit. Various scheduling options are listed there below as well, kind of how you could organize your day. But really for 6th graders, we're looking at somewhere between about 5.5 hours of school kind of minimum. Again, you've got 4 hours initially for the academics and another hour for PE, so that puts you to 5. And then if you factor in homework, you're looking at somewhere between 5-6 hours a day. Moving on to 7th grade, academics do ramp up a little bit, and 7th graders have the opportunity to take and enroll in different electives, including foreign language, which is a high school level, high school equivalent class, and will require more study time. It is an academic intensive class, so please be aware of that. Again, same kind of options there. A seventh grade and 8th grade do not have core classes. They have a separate English language arts and social studies class. So you can see if Liam was in 7th grade, then his day would look a little bit different than a 6th grade day. He'd be attending each of these classes individually rather than a block. But the same program options exist. So lunch at noon, or you could do PE, or if you're enrolled in one of the electives that's scheduled during this time, you would jump straight into that elective. Again, the options are kind of listed on this slide down below, and you have the same year-long electives options. I'm sorry, and this actually shouldn't say exploratory. So year-long electives include band, strings, chorus, and our foreign language. And this was an error. I apologize for that. So they don't have exploratory electives in 7th grade. Anticipated homework load, again, 15 to 30 minutes per academic and 1 to 2 hours per night. But again, many of our 7th graders engage in the year-long strings, band, chorus, and Spanish, or I'm sorry, world language electives. So that does require typically a little bit more study time. And so you are looking at extended hours on homework there. And it looks like I've got something blocking my screen there that I don't know how to get rid of. There it goes. So for 7th grade, anticipate around 6 hours to a school day with 2 hours or more of homework. Again, that is not every night. That would be like a 2-hour night would be a pretty big night, right? So, you know, we don't want to burden kids with too much homework at night, but you could anticipate up to that number of hours of homework for 7th grade. 8th grade, again, academics increase slightly, academic workload increases slightly. Same options exist for the academic day, and then 8th graders often take, again, 2 electives. With the academic workload that 8th graders are involved in, you are looking at a longer day potentially if you enroll in 2 electives. So up to 7 hours of class, that would include your 4 hours of academics, 1 hour of PE, and if you did Spanish and one of our music classes, you would be engaged at school for a 7-hour day, and then you'd have additional homework. So 2 to 3 hours estimating, including like strings practice or band practice. Again, foreign language is a heavier load, so that does add to it. And again, if we say 3 hours, that would be a maximum. I wouldn't anticipate too many kids going beyond the 3-hour workload. But again, students that are taking all 4 academics plus 2 electives plus PE should be looking at somewhere between 2 to 3 hours total of homework nightly. And that's not to say that, you know, there aren't nights when it's far less than that, but anticipate that some nights could be that long. Academic instruction. A lot of questions we had last year and beginning this year is what is our academic instructional, what are our norms going to look like? So wanted to kind of give you an overview of those tonight. First of all, we're going to be teaching from a common platform this year. Last year, that wasn't the case. We had lots of teacher freedom, but we realized that there's a huge benefit in getting all our teachers on the same page, not only for students, but also particularly for parents to really adapt and understand one program thoroughly. So you will see everybody using Google Classroom as a common platform, and this will help ensure continuity throughout the program, should help our students, and in the long run, it will help our teachers as well because everybody will be using the same thing. Delivery of instruction, we will be featuring Zoom interactive sessions this year. It is something that we're requiring and something that we believe in. Also, teachers can use or make instructional videos. They're going to be using Google Classroom, as I just mentioned. And then there's a variety of online resources that are really great: Pear Deck, Kahoot, Screencastify, so many other tools that they'll be rolling out. But again, the main thing that we heard last year was we would like more Zoom interactive lessons. We want that teacher-to-student connection. And so we're making sure that that takes place this year, and we anticipate that you'll see that a lot more. So the minimum live interaction that we are asking for is 15 minutes. Again, we have 45-minute class periods, so that's 33% of the time. And also, again, that is the minimum. So we do anticipate that many teachers will go well beyond that, but it will depend on the day and the lesson. So most of the time, classes will start in a live session. However, we might use a flipped classroom model and have students do some work at the beginning or watch a video at the beginning and then come in live. During the live portion of the class is where attendance will be taken, and again, students are required to be there. So again, our minimum is 15 minutes of live instruction for each academic period. So at a minimum, your student should be seeing their teachers for 60 minutes a day through the 4 academic periods, if not more if you include electives and physical education. So total overall engagement, each scheduled academic class will require a minimum of 60 minutes of total overall engagement. That includes assigned homework. Again, this is the minimum, and we anticipate that it will likely be more. based on the assignments that are pushed out. So additional support, just going to highlight this again. So students that are in need of additional support can request an appointment during 6-period student support period, and they can request the format. So the teachers will agree upon the format. That could include a personal Zoom session, a telephone call, or email, or again, teachers might reach out to your student and invite them to a group session during that time. Grading and grading policy and scale. So last year we used an A, B, C scale, and then for D's and F's, we did not provide D's and F's to students. We used basically a different code. We didn't want students to fail classes at the end of last year, given the circumstances that everyone was thrust into. So this year we are going to be operating on a standard grading scale. We are moving to that because this is real school now. This is how school is rolling out. This is not, something that has been sprung on us in an emergency situation, and people are going to have to adapt and adjust. So we are using standard grading scale. We are moving also from the trimester schedule, offering 3 grading periods, to the quarter semester system that's broken into 4. This mimics the high school, but really it was done to accommodate potential transitions to hybrid learning models at particular watch dates. So we're looking at, I believe it was October 9th, as an opportunity to re-examine models, and the weeks obviously moving up to that, monitoring viral spread and conditions. And then if we surpass that date, then a next natural break would be December 18th. To move to a hybrid after winter break. So we moved to the quarter system to accommodate those. There's also the added benefit that grading periods are a little bit shorter, and we will be providing more progress reports instead of getting 6 sort of grade updates in the mail. You'll be getting 8 during the course of this year, in addition to being able to monitor areas. So our grading scale looks like this: A, B, C, D, and F. Again, very standard. The explanations are there, and we will make sure that this presentation is available if you want to come back and look at this or any other part of it. And then areas will be updated on a regular basis. This is something that is a point of emphasis with our teachers. Last year, at the end of the year, we were putting in TX codes and trying to make exceptions and exemptions for people that were in different situations. This year, we anticipate rolling the gradebook forward just as if we were in regular session, and that we will be working hard to update it on a more regular basis and keeping people up to speed on their progress. Attendance policy. So basically, attendance is obviously a really important part of what we're doing. It is state mandated at this point. So we will be taking attendance for each class. For every class that a student is enrolled in, there will be a live portion of the class, and attendance will be taken at the beginning. Again, the exception here is physical education, but even electives will be taking attendance. With PE, it's only a little bit different because you could do independent study, in which case your log will count for your attendance on that day. So again, attendance is going to be a critical part of this. Students will be asked to log on, show their face to the teacher to be counted, and then the teacher will explain their instructional norms for the students, whether or not they need their faces present during the entire class or if they can turn those off. So attendance is mandatory and compulsory, and I just covered this, but students have to log in, be accounted for, and participate each day in class to be considered in attendance. So they can't log in, then go dark and just have their name posted and play a bunch of Fortnite and have that count as class. We want them to actually engage in the curriculum. So illness, doctor's appointments, or absences. If a student is ill and can't attend class for any reason, please contact our attendance secretary, Laura Cardinale, to report the absence. Again, we're working off the state codes for what are excused absences and what are not. So there's no difference in attendance now in this model than there was last year in live school. So basically the attendance policies, everything just rolls over. Anytime a student misses a class, we'd like you to call Mrs. Cardinale, and she'll be able to document that. If we find that students aren't logging into a class, you will still get a call from her. The first call probably will be a robocall, as we call them, as attendance is reported through our automated area system, but also she'll be engaging in personal calls to track down people that are missing. So again, this is something that we're going to be emphasizing and working hard to make sure that people are engaged in school. And then finally on this slide is truancy. So students who don't attend scheduled classes can be subject to Monterey County's truancy abatement process. That is in full effect this year. We usually typically don't have too many issues with truancy in our students, but the best way to avoid it is, number one, attend class, and number two, give Ms. Cardinale a call if you can't. If you'd like to learn more about what truancy is and what policies kind of govern truancy, we've included a link on this presentation so you can check that out, find out all about that. And again, we'll push this out so that people have access to it. Social emotional connection and support. I am going to stop talking momentarily and get a little drink of water, and Miss Casper is going to take over this sign, or this slide. She's done a lot of work with Character Strong and has some information for you. So go ahead and take it away, Jen.
Hi, everyone. I get to talk about the stuff that's near and dear to all of our hearts, especially right now and working with middle school students. So the social emotional connection and support piece is really important to us here at CMS. And we've been trying to put some things in place to make sure that we are ready to support our students in this strange time. One of the programs that we started to research and look into last year is called Character Strong, and it is a social emotional character development program. It's just outstanding. I can't say enough about it. A few teachers and I went to a training last year with the two founders of the program. There's some districts in our area that are using it and absolutely rave about the results they've gotten. We had piloted an advisory program last year until COVID hit and we had to shut down. But we're hoping that we are going to be now engaging in those lessons this year, especially when we're back in the hybrid model and face-to-face. I also just attended another training this week that was all about re-engaging emotionally. So it had all these wonderful ideas that we're going to train the teachers on, how to engage your students and to connect to them emotionally through Zoom, which is a huge challenge. And so we have them as a really strong partner of ours, and they're constantly working on new ideas and pushing out new things to help teachers during this time. Some other things that we're going to be having throughout the year are student orientations. So we're still going to be holding our 6th grade BAC, which is building a connection. Normally that's held in person, but we are going to take on the challenge of doing it over Zoom. So that will be held August 11th, and Dan will share the times and all these dates with you in the next coming slides. We want to make sure that all 6th graders have their Chromebooks. But it's a really strong program that's run by our leadership students. They work really hard on it, and they're going to be connected to 12 students each that they will be helping to mentor throughout the year. They should be giving you a call and checking in on your student. So it just helps those 6th graders to feel like they have a connection when they're not on campus and actually seeing us all physically. We're also still going to be holding our new family presentation. We normally do a welcome back or a welcome to school for all of our new families that are new to the district. This would not be the 6th grade families. This would be people, unless you moved here new and you've never been in the district. This would just be all new people to Carmel Unified. And that will also be August 7th over Zoom. Our CMS Leadership Program will still be going strong this year, thanks to the wonderful Liz Wells. And she is working hard with her team to create some virtual activities and competitions, things to replace the activities that we normally do on our Fun Fridays. And we'll probably still be looking at doing some Spirit Days on Thursdays where kids can dress up and take pictures of themselves and post them. Our library team of Mrs. Thompson and Mrs. Jeffries do an incredible job of creating really fun virtual competitions and events that they held at the end of last year during our online education. Things like Battle of the Books, they do a trivia day, they've got Pi Day where students have to memorize the numbers, and it's absolutely amazing and mind-blowing how many digits they can remember. They do the GOB, just to name a few. So there will be a lot of fun competitions, I'm sure, popping up over the next few months. Our counselors are also going to be doing group counseling sessions, and there will be a new format this year. We're hoping that they can not only do sessions where they're addressing needs of students, but also just have some fun get-togethers with students where they can log in and get to see other students their age or in their grade and have some fun things that they're doing that the counselor is running. So that will probably most likely be held in the afternoon sessions, and we'll move that around to make sure that kids who have electives have an option to join or an opportunity to join. We'll also be doing student recognition and special events virtually, and those will be planned throughout the year in the virtual format. Dan, do you want me to do the next slide too?
Sure.
Okay, next slide. I'll finish up the social emotional connection and support. Give you time to have another drink of water. So we will also still have individual support for students through their counselors. I know we are working closely still with Monterey County Behavioral Health to have counseling services that are provided to our students, and those counselors have been working with us with certain students all through the summer as well. They do Zoom sessions one-on-one. That is a referral system, so it's something that we have to go through the counselors, and they make a referral to Monterey County Behavioral Health to put those services into place. As I said earlier, our school counselors will also offer group and individual support, and they can make referrals for services. And finally, our support period is really going to be an amazing time to provide not only individual academic support, but also social emotional support. You know, a lot of times our teachers make the strongest connection with our students, and it gives them that time that a student can reach out and say, hey, I just need somebody to talk to. Mr. Morgan and myself are also always available to chat with a student and connect and be there to support them as well. So I think we've got a lot of great things planned for social emotional connection, and I'm sure there'll be more things to come as we continue to brainstorm. Dan, back to you.
All right, thanks very much, Jen, appreciate it. So some important upcoming dates, some to be announced, but we wanted to give you a look at what we're working on. August 7th would be a new family 7th and 8th grade orientation. August 11th, 6th grade distribution of Chromebooks and school materials. This is the first day of school. We are going to be distributing materials that day, and then in the afternoon for 6th graders, doing the Building a Connection program that Jen just spoke of, and that will be starting at 2 o'clock. Again, we'll send out more information specifically to 6th graders and their families in the next few days here. August 12th, 7th and 8th grade distribution of school materials and Chromebooks. If you don't already have one, or if you've got a damaged Chromebook, we want to get that replaced and get a working one into your hands. So that will take place on August 12th. Again, times will be sent out to you, but we're looking probably at 7th graders coming in the morning, 8th graders coming in the afternoon. And again, we've got over 400 students in those two grades combined, so a lot of time that needs to get spent getting that stuff out and into kids' hands. August 13th, we're planning on doing a modified school schedule, allowing teachers to do their first kind of class meet and greet. And that will take place in the morning. And then in the evening, we're going to engage in our back to school presentations and give families an orientation. So that would be students and their parents logging back in 6 p.m. and getting kind of an overview of programs and some tutorials on how to navigate each individual class. August 17th will be the first day of actual instruction, the first time that teachers are meeting with their kids in the classroom format. And so that kind of gives you a look at what's coming up here in the next, basically just 2 weeks away. And then just general information, contact information is listed here. Again, we'll push this out so that you know who to talk to or who to find, but basically the person's name and their role at our school is listed along with their extension and just above the general CMS line. So call that line. Any of those extensions will get you to those people specifically, but if the phone is ringing, somebody will be answering it. We've had the question a few times, like, is everybody coming to work? Our office will be staffed regularly. Jen and I will be here in the offices throughout the school year and school day, and our secretaries are planning to come in as well. So everybody should be readily available for the most part. Contact information for counselors and administrators also included here for you. Our two counselors, Sarah and Melissa, and then myself and Jen listed there as well. All right. Hopefully you didn't fall asleep during that. It's a lot of talking at an empty screen and certainly feels very strange. So now is the opportunity to open it up for questions. But once again, I'll just remind you, please don't put them in chat. Use the hand raise feature. And then our folks that are monitoring that will get to us. They'll get you on the screen and you'll have a minute to ask your questions. And I just need to transfer back to the regular program here and end this screen share.
First up, we have Charles. And Charles, when you have a moment.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay, great. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
We're a new family in town and we have an incoming 6th grader. And your presentation answered pretty much all of my questions except for two. One is, what are the expectations for parent involvement? And the other one is, will students have the opportunity to interact with each other in the virtual classrooms?
Okay, so I'm going to take the second part of that question first. So students absolutely will have opportunities to interact in virtual classrooms. Obviously, collaboration and student engagement is critical. And so, teaching any kind of lesson online, obviously like the format we just used would not be great, right? So we want kids to engage with each other. We want them to have fun in their Zoom sessions. We want them to look forward to class. And a lot of the training that we've done this summer and moving into the school year is about how you engage and how you keep people active participants in this environment. So yes, the answer to that is yes, and we hope to see a lot of student interactivity. Expectations for, you said parent involvement, I think. So obviously we're super limited, right? Because of the, just the rules that govern this program altogether. So I think that that's a good question. I don't think I have a great answer for you right now because we haven't thought about that too much. However, we'll provide opportunities throughout the year for people to kind of understand and ask questions about our program and where it's going. But overall involvement, I think, will probably be obviously limited. We, in a typical year, we have lots of activities that parents are involved in, dances, field trips, all of those types of things. But we don't have that planned right now. So that's a great question, and sorry, poor answer. But I think I'll write it down, and we will continue to take a look at that and how we can increase parent involvement.
Can I jump in on that, Dan? Because I'm wondering too, just
Yes,
to make
please.
sure that he didn't mean it from the angle of how much involvement are parents expected to have in their child's education where their child is home and learning. So I'm not sure which angle, but I'm going to answer that just in case, because you answered the other part. We're hoping that most middle schoolers should be pretty independently driven. The way that they are going to be setting up Google Classroom this year is that every teacher's weekly schedule will be at the top of their Google Classroom, and they will also be linking it into Aries. So we all know that the issue is that you can't get into their Google Classroom because you're not a student in the class, right? But you can go onto Aries when you look at your student's profile, and next to each class should be a link where it normally says visit website that will take you to your student's schedule for the week of activities and homework. So we would only ask that you check Aries regularly, at least once a week, to make sure that your student is getting everything turned in, to make sure that you're checking weekly schedules. If your kid is one who needs extra support and help, that you're really encouraging them to use the support hours, that they're contacting their teachers and making an appointment. But on top of that, middle schoolers at this point, sixth graders might still need a little bit of hand holding, but most of these kids are coming off distance learning already. So hopefully they have it kind of dialed in. So hopefully we answered your question from both angles.
Now we have Shell. Shell, when you have a moment, unmute.
Hi, Shelly here. Can you guys hear me?
Sure can.
Great, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, really appreciate it. I'm still not clear on some of the PE requirements and how it's outlined. I saw that in the morning you have the live sessions, and then it was mentioned again in the afternoon and in the logs. And is there more than one live session besides the early bird one? And then what if our student does the live session one day, but then does it the pre-recorded a different day, and then wants to do a log a different day? Like, what kind of combo can we do? And is there live sessions besides just in the morning?
So I'll start with the combo question. The combo gets a little bit hard to track for our PE staff. So we are going to ask that people commit to, certain things at least for a duration. And again, the PE staff will have that for you. But again, we wanted to try to provide opportunities for people to participate, different times, different days if they want to. So the first live session is in the morning, and that's going to be open to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And basically what will happen there is the teacher will use Zoom to create an attendance record of who was in attendance, and then ship that off to the PE staff. And then they'll monitor that and log in that the student participated in PE. At lunchtime and beyond, so starting at 12:15, so 12:15, 1:15, 2:15, there will be opportunities for live workouts with instructors. And then starting at 3:15, probably looking at more of the recorded versions so that people can access their own workouts. And then again, the final piece of that is if you opt for just kind of straight independent study, you can submit an exercise log to your assigned teacher and account for those PE minutes. So kind of 3 ways to do PE. And again, we'll make sure we've got to do a little bit more work with our PE department to dial in that program, but we will be sending out information about PE and how to make sure that you get credit for it. But there are different options throughout the day.
Sabine, you're in. If you would unmute, you can ask your question.
Yep. I have 3 questions, and hopefully they're gonna be quick. The first one is, when are we actually gonna get our schedules? The second one is between the 11th and 12th, when everybody gets their Chromebooks and gets settled, and the 17th, is anything officially happening education-wise? And then the third question is, for students that are going to be coming in or maybe are already enrolled that need accelerated learning programs, is there going to be the option for kids to test into higher math classes or do any of the accelerated learning if they're new to the school?
Okay, so I guess I'll take those in order. So the first one was, oh, you know what? Let's see. I'm trying to jot it down, but now I can't remember what your first one was. So
When our schedule is going to come out.
Oh, schedules. Okay. So first of all, scheduling is really complex this year. So just to give you some kind of an idea of the challenge that we're up against, normally in a normal year at the middle school and most high school, at the high school level, you get your master schedule done before the year is over. So before the school year ends, we've got that dialed in. We've got most of the kids loaded. And then the work that's done the 2 weeks prior to school is simply, who's in, who's out, what programs need to change. And even that takes a team of people, literally 2 weeks, and we release schedules the day before or the day of our back to school event. So this year it's obviously more complicated than ever before, and it's the most complex scheduling matrix that I've ever worked in. So we are hustling. We're trying to get them done as quickly as we can. But I can't give you an accurate date other than to say we'll get them before school starts, which I know is not what you want to hear. But that is a huge lift and a huge challenge. Again, we are actually not building just one, but we're trying to cover a transition to a hybrid program so that the schedule that kids are in now in distance hopefully won't be altered too much if we make that change. We want them to keep the same teachers. We want them to keep the same periods. And we want them to be with the same peers that they're going to connect with online. So if we didn't schedule this way in hybrid world, we would have to sort of blow up the model and start over. And you would lose a lot of ground as you switch from one model to another. So it is a complicated process that's going to take us a while, and I can't answer accurately when that will be done because it's just there's a ton to do. So the other question was what's happening with school. So our first day of academic instruction will be the 17th. Again, we have over 600 students to get Chromebooks to, supplies to. So we're using the first 3 days of school, the 11th, 12th, and 13th as distribution days and orientation days. So 6th grade orientation, again, will be that Tuesday night, and our back to school orientation program will be the 13th in the afternoon. Accelerated learning, again, part of the depths of what we have going on right now, we haven't gotten to that level, but typically there are opportunities for accelerated learning, and once we get everybody enrolled into the classes, we're going to be taking a look at how we do that. It's more of a challenge this year than ever before because we are looking at developing cohorts that cannot mingle with one another. So for instance, a 6th grade student who accelerates in math and jumps to 7th grade, unless we have about 10 of those kids, it's really hard to put them in a cohort and allow them access to that class in person because it ruins sort of the fidelity of that cohort. And we're worried about, cross-contamination with the virus. And we've been tasked with essentially eliminating opportunities for students to mingle and interact on those levels. So they're locked into classes. We have discussed the idea of allowing students to take accelerated classes online, but we still have to figure out what that would look like. So we plan to examine that, and our hope is to ensure that people have the opportunities to accelerate if they can. But at this point, again, we haven't worked out kind of the nuts and bolts of that.
Dan, one more thing. I'm gonna jump in. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know because we just changed this today, so we keep forgetting. Everything changes minute by minute. But also on the 13th of August, we will not only have our back to school night, but students will be logging into their entire schedule that day and having kind of a quick meet and greet with their teachers and get to kind of see who their class is, but also just to make sure that everything works and they know where things are. So they will have a shortened schedule that day that will be sent to you soon.
Up next is Michael. Michael, if you'll unmute, please.
Hello. My question deals with PE, and you said you want a 45-minute per day PE requirement, or is that 45 minutes actually per day of activity for PE?
So Michael, we lost you in part of your question. I don't know if your connection was bad, but I only heard part of it.
Okay, sorry. Do you hear me better now?
I think so.
Okay, so the question is for PE. Is it 45 minutes per day averaged over each day over a week? or is it 45 minutes per actual day of work PE? Because mine just no runs. And so if we do running, is it, an hour and a half run over a weekend would be 2 days of work, or is it not count at all?
So we would like students to engage in 40 minutes per day. That's how our program is designed here on campus, and we want to continue that continuity outside of campus. Obviously, if kids go over that limit on their own, then that's excellent. But yeah, we're looking at a 40-minute a day requirement across all grade levels for the PE class.
So up next is Bahar. Bahar, if you'll unmute, you can ask your question.
Hi, hello. Thanks for taking my question. I'm the parent of an incoming 6th grader who has chosen to take strings as her elective. I'm wondering if instruments will be provided, is my first question. And my second question was around library book availability or access to library books.
So we will have both. Instruments will be provided, and we'll be having an instrument pass out day. It may be mixed in with the dates that students pick up their stuff. We do have, I guess the challenge there is that we allowed our 8th grade students to walk away with their instruments and practice over the summer. So we've got some collection to do as well. But yeah, our goal is to have, our musicians have instruments in their hands as soon as possible. And then the second question was, I forgot it already. Jen, what was it? Jen's much smarter than me. She keeps track.
It was about, oh God, it's right there. I know I had a.
Sorry, the library.
Oh,
Okay,
library,
thank you. Yeah, library books.
Yeah,
Sorry.
So our library, our regular librarian is actually moving into science this year to help with overall student load. She's going to be working sort of part-time in the library, but our library assistant is going to continue to run the library. So we have the opportunity to provide some services from the library, and then we also have an online catalog that will allow people to check out books. Jen, you want to add anything to that?
Nope, I think you got it.
Unmute. Thanks.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, we're new to this district, and our daughter would be entering into 6th grade this year. So in our current district, she has IEP support, and I had a question regarding that as to how that's going to continue in the online distance learning model, if it would be part of the grade support or if it's a separate period altogether for her. And additionally, just expanding on that question, would she be still able to take one of the electives if the timing works out in the remote learning model as well?
Yeah, so your question about IEPs is really based, or your question about IEPs and what they are sort of allowed to access is really based on level of need. And so as I don't know your daughter specifically at this point, I obviously can't comment on that, but our team would be examining the IEP document and kind of figuring out how best to support her. So with that program, typically there's a study skills period that takes up the elective period. However, there are always options for students to explore electives in different ways. So again, it really just depends on the level of support that's necessary. I think part of your question was accessing classes. So again, that is based on the IEP needs. Many students on IEPs are enrolled in general ed classes. And then also have support class that's built into their program. With students on IEPs, again, because we're looking at the cohort model and establishing cohorts, there's probably a little less opportunity overall for gen ed classes. But again, we're examining the model and trying to figure out how best to support the kids in that model. I would say, I think another question was, what kind of support is out there? Our special education staff did an incredible job engaging with our students on IEPs last year. They were constantly on Zoom, constantly engaging in tutorials. We have at least one special education aid assistant for every grade level, and in one grade level we'll have 2. So those people are also highly involved in keeping the kids active, engaged, and on track with their learning. So I think you'll find that we offer a pretty high level of support in the special education program.
We're going to go to Michelle next. If the other 2 that unraised their hands that had theirs up, Lavina and Mark, if you still had a question, please re-raise your hands.
Hi. Dan, thank you for a really great presentation. Also, I just have a question about textbooks. I have a 6th grader and an 8th grader, and since they're going to be spending so much time on the computers, and also so that I can support them, will there be textbooks available for the students to take home?
Yeah, part of our passing out of materials will be passing out textbooks. So what will happen is similar to what we did last year. It'll be in a drive-through format. Teachers will have arranged sort of bags to be dropped off into your car. And we hope to have our teams kind of standing curbside so people can meet them, see them, wave at them. And then all of the materials will be handed off to families as they come through the drive-through area in the front of the school. So yes, textbooks will be a big part of that.
Great.
Patricia Hansen, if you'll unmute, you can ask your question.
Hi guys. First I want to say awesome presentation. You can tell it was definitely well thought out, much better than some others that I've heard. So thank you for that. My question is regarding attendance. Considering our communities that have very poor to no internet, what's the expectation or modification for those students?
So we're continuing to examine that and work on plans for students. There is the possibility of potentially bringing some students onto campus that don't have internet access, and we're exploring those options with our district. Obviously, I don't know what your situation is, but last year we pushed packet work out to people, and that was a real challenge. And it leaves people behind. Really, we felt the independent study packets don't give them access to teacher and personalized instruction. And so we really are hoping to find ways to engage them. The district's also really supportive of buying hotspots and getting people internet help as long as that signal can get to them. So we're in the process right now of trying to figure out who's got a signal, who's got strong enough signal to really engage this way, and trying to figure out contingency plans for getting them educated and access to our curriculum if they're not able to do so from home. So that's something that we've got a short amount of time to figure out. We hope to be able to involve them just like everybody else.
Sari, this is the last question that we have in the queue.
Hi there. Yes, it's good to see everybody. And thank you again for this wonderful presentation. So we have an 8th grader and an incoming 6th grader. And my question was around athletics and what, I don't know, I apologize if I missed this at the beginning, but I was wondering what is happening with the possibility of athletics.
So as of now, there are no athletics that are allowed in the fall semester of school. CIF, I believe, high school sports has pushed all of theirs off in terms of just making a decision to the spring. And if we are allowed to get back together in full and they allow athletics to take place, then we'll be examining how we can fit in those sports. So one of the challenges for middle school is that, with limited gym space, it'd be hard to layer volleyball with basketball, for example. So those are some decisions that we'd probably have to make in the spring. But as of right now, we're not being allowed to offer any of those sports.
So we have some more raised hands. Amy?
Hi, thanks for your time tonight. I appreciate all the information. So mine was a similar question about athletics. Specifically like around golf and tennis. I think maybe they're typically spring sports, but it just seems the more flexible we can be and create some kind of inner athletic competition for the kids during these times would be great. Just a comment. Then the question is, since we're not going to have in-person learning on campus and we're not doing athletics, can the parents or the public use the tennis courts at the middle school during school days?
So our campus still needs to be closed campus during school day, just because we don't want, lots of people coming and like riding bikes through, walking dogs, and just wandering through. That would be a distraction. We are going to have a lot of teachers teaching from their classrooms on campus. So that's going to be, a component of critical needs. So we're going to keep the campus closed during those times. In terms of parents getting kids together after school for athletic events, that's a tough one. Obviously, I kind of can't really weigh in personally on how I feel about that. But the school is not allowed to offer anything. As soon as we can, we will. We're dying to. I have one son who's very involved in lots of sports and is missing them a lot. And I know that there are tons of kids out there that are feeling the same way. So I would encourage you to continue training at home and on your own. But unfortunately, that's not something that we get to offer right now. I'm very sad.
Allison, if you will unmute, you can ask your question.
Hi, this is actually Natalie Lott on Allison Bonan's computer. I have a quick question regarding scheduling. If a student is signed up for 2 electives, when will they actually have time to eat lunch? Because it looked like they would be doing their first elective during lunchtime and then their next elective after that.
Yeah, so not necessarily. Again, it depends on how the day is lined up. But if a student does land in sort of that window of like, oh my gosh, I have 6 consecutive classes, then we're hoping that they'll just kind of eat, during class and as classes change. So I know it sounds a little funny, but if I could give you an example. So say your child is in a social studies class and the teacher opens with a 15-minute lecture and then says, okay, I want you to read this article, watch this video, and then your homework tonight is to write this assignment. That would give them the better part of the next 45 minutes or so to eat and also then complete their homework kind of on their own time. And again, that's assuming that they would go straight through. The other component of that is that our electives will be spread out. So they'll start at 12:15, but your child might have an elective scheduled at 12:15 and then their next elective scheduled at say 3:15. It depends on what they take and where that lines up. So that afternoon slot actually has 4 periods. And some electives will repeat. So like Spanish 1, for example, at last glance had about 80 kids signed up for it. So we're going to slot those kids into different periods. We will take a look at everybody's individual schedule and try to do what we feel like is best for them to hopefully avoid that schedule where a kid might just go straight through the day and not have a lunch break. But if that is the case, then we're hoping people will kind of take care of their food needs during the day and in those 15-minute windows.
Erica, if you'll unmute, you can ask your question.
Hello, I'm wondering if there's a sign-up sheet or someone we have to contact in order to receive the Chromebooks.
So Chromebooks are not done on sign-up sheets. We have everyone's name obviously in our system with registration, and our tech staff is preparing Chromebooks nonstop right now for distribution. So there's no need to contact anyone. It'll just be part of the package.
Unless you are a student whose Chromebook broke or something over the summer. I don't know if you have a 6th grader or you're talking about a 7th or 8th grader, but I believe that we'll be sending out another survey soon for students who need their Chromebook replaced so that our tech department is ready when you come to pick up the rest of your materials.
Lyons family, you can ask your question.
Hi, I wanted to start by thanking everyone. I think that the middle school has handled this the best out of everyone. And I definitely think that you, Jen, the counselors and the teachers have gone above and beyond. My question is for a student who, for whatever reason, is unable to complete the year, like they miss too much school or miss too many Zoom meetings. Will there be an opportunity at the end of this crazy year for them to test into their grade so that they aren't held back an entire grade this year?
Yeah, so I mean, I would answer that by saying we're never interested in failing a student. All the data and statistics that are out there on failure and retaining students, are pretty negative overall. They end up as dropouts typically and really struggle. So, we would have to look at it on a case-by-case basis, and we're going to do everything we possibly can to, re-engage learners who struggle with this format. And I mean, that's kind of the best answer I can give you, is that we're going to work really hard to try to keep people engaged, to make sure that they're getting the services that they need, to figure out a program that will work for them, even if it means, reducing their academic day in one way or another. We're going to look at every possible option to try to keep kids caught up, engaged, and moving through, this really challenging time. But once again, I'll just reiterate that, failing a kid, holding a kid back, is not really a direction that we want to go. It's only used in the most extreme cases. In my entire 20-year career in education, I've been involved in holding 2 children back grade level, and that's it. So, we'll try to do everything we can to prevent that from happening. As far as testing forward and into your grade level, hopefully that would be unnecessary, but we certainly could do some assessments with people to find out, where they're at. I will say that in the past, when we've had students who have struggled, There have been times where we've kept them in one grade level for 1 or 2 classes and allowed them to access grade level curriculum in others in an attempt to catch them up. So again, we do try to go above and beyond to figure out a pathway to keep them with their peers, always keeping those negative statistics in mind and the negative association with failing at grade level. So hopefully that answers your question.
And I'm sorry for anyone's name I mess up, but Monia?
Monia is close. That's my wife's name, and I'm Gary. Just a little confused on the startup date. Are we starting on the 11th or on the 17th? And if we do start on the 17th, does that mean we will end school a week later?
No, so day 1 of school is August 11th. So, I mean, I guess the best way to equate this is in a normal school situation, your kids would come to class and they would go over syllabus, they would go to the library and collect their Chromebooks, they would get their textbooks, and the next couple of days usually are spent on team building. So what we're looking at is we've got a lot of materials obviously to get out to people, and that's a real challenge. 600 students have to pick up Chromebooks, textbooks, all of those things. So on the 11th, we'll start that process with 6th graders. That is considered the first day of school. They will engage that afternoon in the Building a Connection program. Our 7th and 8th graders, Wednesday will be reserved for providing them with their materials. And then Thursday, we'll do a modified school schedule, which will be a meet and greet. It'll be the first time that they log in and get to access their classes and teachers. The whole purpose of that is to make sure that the computers are working, that they figure out how to log in, that they get a chance to see who else is in their class and hear a little bit from their teacher. And then that night will be parent orientation, parent and student orientation actually. And then 17th will be the first sort of academic day. So at that point in time, we anticipate that teachers will begin the social emotional components of building classroom community and then starting on curriculum. So they are still considered school days, but again, we have to get materials out into people's hands. So we're using the 11th, 12th, and 13th to do that while mixing in orientation programs. Oh, I think there was another part of that. Would the school year be extended by a week? The answer is no.
Lewis, you can unmute and ask your question.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for the presentation tonight. For electives, if there's any changes that need to be made, how do you want to handle that? And then the second question is, once you move from distance learning to a hybrid model, will it change the the makeup of the student's day in terms of how those electives fit into the rest of the school day?
Yeah, so first, you can contact our registrar and let her know about elective request changes or counselors. So those are the people that handle those. Again, it's going to be based, on basically openings in class, and they are pretty full as we're kind of examining things right now. Second is that right now we are trying to build our schedule so that it's a fairly seamless transition from the distance learning program to hybrid learning program. So we hope that we don't end up having to move students from one class to another in the hybrid program. One of the things that we're looking at with hybrid is that there are some classes that we're not allowed to do in person. So band and chorus, for example, are 2 courses that we can't offer in person in the hybrid program. So in the hybrid program, I think most people realize there's an A day and a B day, and students are grouped sort of according to alphabet, and the kids come in on the A day while B day kids stay at home. So what we thought we would do is the electives that students enroll in distance, when they roll over to the hybrid program, those will be only offered in sort of block format on the off day. So on the B day or the A day when students are in class, the B students would be accessing chorus and band. And on the B day, when those students are in class, the A students would access chorus and band during that time. So it's a very complicated transition. We are doing the best right now to front load it as much as possible so that it is smooth for everyone. We do definitely anticipate that, a small number of students, if we do this right, a small number of students will have schedule changes. And again, it just depends really on what happens. There are possibilities built in that people decide that they don't want to come back in hybrid, and that maybe opens up a little bit more room for us to have some flexibility. We're polling people right now to try to figure out if that's what they want to do so that we can build the schedule right up front and allow a seamless transition to hybrid. But again, it's really, really complicated to go from one program to another mid-year and keep everything intact. So we're going to do our best there. But like I said, this is all new for all of us. So the amount of thought and energy going into balancing these two schedules simultaneously is intense.
Shannon, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
I have gone online and registered my 7th grade student with the grade, program, and course request form. My question is that our registration for school this year for the 2020-2021 year, or is there forms to fill out? Usually we do a whole online school registration. So that's my question.
Yeah, so the answer is no. That form was an internal form for us to try to get a jump on scheduling people into their elective classes and taking a look. We wanted to examine how many people wanted just the academic only program, and how much flexibility we would have, particularly in looking at how can we offer 6th graders an extended day with electives. So that was the purpose of that. Also, due to the fact that we had to close electives like study hall and industrial arts, that basically took 210 kids and displaced them from electives they had selected last year. So we wanted to give those people the opportunity to sign up for something else that we do offer. So that was the purpose of that form. School registration form should be coming out soon. Elaine, nod your head if I'm accurate there. And once those are filled out, then Elaine is the person that handles all of that. So hopefully that answers your question.
So Maya Wecker, please unmute.
Yep, go ahead.
I wanted to ask why 6th graders weren't able to choose which electives they wanted while the 7th and 8th graders got to.
So in our normal program, 6th graders are given the option to take full year electives as I've covered tonight, but we also usually offer what's called an exploratory loop and a cycle. So in the exploratory loop and the cycle, 6th graders enroll in essentially a sampling of all of our classes. So in a normal year physical environment, 6th grade student would take French, they'd take Chinese, they'd take Spanish, they would get to do industrial arts, they'd get to do regular art, and then there's other classes that are kind of mixed into that. Unfortunately, due to the changes in the model, what we've had to do is take teachers who normally teach 1 elective period in a day or 2 elective periods in a day, and they have become full-time subject area specialists. So the need in distance learning to provide more academic periods to fit kids into this schedule appropriately and design for hybrid meant that we lost elective opportunities. So what's happening now is we're examining how many 7th and 8th grade students wanted to change electives. We are giving them priority because the foreign languages in particular are high school level classes. They get high school credit for. And so once all of the 7th and 8th graders are scheduled in, we'll begin examining the 6th grade course requests and identifying if we have opportunities to provide you guys, I assume you're a 6th grader, with elective classes there as well. If that doesn't happen, then we might send out a new elective request form, because I'm working with a couple teachers on some new offerings or some things that we haven't offered before. So we'll try to figure that out and be able to offer hopefully something to extend. But at this point, our priority is making sure that our 7th and 8th graders are able to continue in their course of studies with the language levels 1 and 2, again, because they're for high school credit. And then obviously next year, our 6th graders becoming 7th graders would have opportunities to enroll in those courses full time. So again, just one of the things that unfortunately we've lost due to this change in program.
Andrew is last at this time, and just a time check at 7:21. Andrew, go ahead and unmute to ask your question.
Hi, Dan. My question actually turned into a 2-part question just because we had some internet difficulties here. How are the kids going to be held responsible if they cannot get into their Zoom meeting for something where we were just trying to watch this and right before we went through, I got kicked off? Is there a way that they will be held accountable for that? And then the other question I had was regarding the actual district schedule, specifically for the minimum days. Are you guys going to be observing those days? And if so, what adjustments are you going to make during those days?
Sure. So I'll answer the second part first, I guess, because that's a real easy one. The minimum days are still in effect. What we have decided to do is offer the academic portion of our day during the minimum days, and the elective portion of the day will be canceled for that day. So on the minimum days, students will attend from 8:15 to noon and only participate in the academic portion of the day. In terms of the, now I forgot the second question you had. Oh yeah, internet. So if you have technical difficulties at home that prevent you from logging in, the best course of action is to just send an email directly to the teacher, but also to our attendance secretary to let them know what took place. We are going to be asking that people record their lessons and post them, so students can access those if they miss the bulk of that lesson. We'll still mark them absent, but we'll note in the attendance notes that it was due to technical issues and that we received contact from the family confirming technical difficulties. Again, what we want to try to avoid there is that if a parent goes to work and leaves a student at home and they just decide, I'd rather use Fortnite because that's all my kid plays. I'd rather play Fortnite than go to school. I'm just going to tell my parents when I got home that I couldn't log into any of my classes because of technical difficulties. That's the piece that we want to avoid. So there will be sort of a system of checks and balances with our attendance secretary to make sure that yes, indeed, that was taking place. If it's something that continues to happen, then obviously we're going to need to have a conversation about how we better support, a family either with internet services or, a different look at the program altogether.
Elizabeth, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so my question is, just to reiterate, for sixth graders, will their day end at 12:15 then, since there won't be any electives? Is that correct?
So it depends on, again, where you choose to slot physical education and how you choose to do that. But technically a day could end at 12:15, and then again, we would anticipate about an hour's worth of homework. So I wouldn't say that the day is over at that point, but you would move into lunch and then the homework session. So, I mean, if I look at a minimal sixth grade program in this particular environment or format, if you got up and did the workout at 7:30, you could be done at noon and then take 30 minutes to eat lunch and jump in and get your homework done in an hour. So you might be done at around 1:30, which is early. But if you skipped the PE portion of that day and chose to do that later, then you would probably be ending more around 2:30, which is pretty much lined up with our normal school day here at Carmel Middle School in the physical environment. So, so it's fairly close, again, depending on how you structure the day.
So Kim, go ahead and unmute and ask your question. And then just to remind everyone that we're wrapping up the meeting. We need to get it closed pretty soon, so.
Thank you. So this goes with the internet. I know everyone's working on it, but if there is no internet solution for those that have 0 by the time school starts, will there be the paper packet option that we did at the end of the last trimester?
I think the best answer to that is that if we have to start that way, then yes. We are trying to make sure that we don't, because again, we feel like there's a lot that's missed in basically the packet independent study work. So we're going to try to avoid that and figure out something prior to the start of school.
Thank you, everyone.
That was our last question, Dan. So I think we're done if you want to wrap up.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I'm even talking to anybody then. They might have all logged out. No, there's 247 people still on. All right. Hey, thanks for joining us tonight. And the number's going down as I speak. We really appreciate it. And hopefully we answered your questions. And hopefully that gives you, some insight into what the program will look like. Again, we're looking forward to this. It's going to be a strange experience, but everybody, all my teachers that I've talked to are excited about, getting back in touch with kids and getting back to work, because this is what they signed up to do with their lives, and they love your kids and they love working with kids. So we're going to try to bring the, the best possible program we can to you. We anticipate it will be much more personal than last year at the end of the year. And, hang in there with us. We know that this is tough and it's new. There's going to be some bumps in the road, but we really do want to do a great job for you and your students. And we want to make sure that this, this experience doesn't set people back, but hopefully we find some ways to move people forward. Thanks again for joining us tonight and for all those questions. We really appreciate them. Some of them have given us some things to think about, so that's always good. And again, we appreciate working with you and look forward to this year. Thank you so much.